So let us know a few things about Ruskin Bond as usual. Ruskin Bond is a renowned Indian author known for his evocative storytelling and vivid portrayal of nature and life in the Himalayas. His works resonate with readers of all ages. So it is very interesting story and inspirational story that we are going to enjoy today. And the first thing that the narrator is set here for us is that in this story we are going to uh, uh, see the two main characters, that is Mr. Narrator, who is Hari Singh, and another writer, I will say, he is Mr. Anil. So these two characters drive the root or the plot with the narrator's internal conflict and moral development forming the root of the story. So the main thing that we have to understand what we learn from the story. Okay, that is the main purpose of every story, whatever we read. So before we begin, what it is inquiring us to understand is a young boy makes friends with Anil. Who is this young boy? Mr. Hari Singh, the narrator. Anil trusts him completely and employs him. Does the boy betray, that means cheated him, his trust? That we will find out in the story at the end when we complete the discussion. Read and find out. These are the oral questions that you will be getting after the discussion. So, meanwhile, uh, who does I refer to in this story? You can say the narrator Hari Singh. Who is the who is he a fairly successful hand at end? What is sorry? What is he a fairly successful hand at end at? Excuse me. What is he a fairly successful hand at? That means stealing. Okay, uh, because story is about thief, so he is expert. This young boy who is of 15 years of old, and Mr. Alil is 25 years of old as a writer in this story. Okay, so what does he get from Anil in return for his work? In for his work, when he was living with him, he used to get food to eat, place to live, and uh, small amount for it. And whatever he used to uh, save in for buying food from the market, he used to keep to himself. So these are few things that I highlight with the questions, okay? But it is not that you should not enjoy the story. You should enjoy the story also. As a student, I always advise you to put interest. At least you read two times or three times. So let us begin. Before we begin the story, let us know about the narrator Hari Singh. Okay, Hari Singh. Hari Singh. So he is the narrator, Mr. Hari Singh, and second one is Mr. Anil. He is the writer. So the narrator Hari Singh, a 50-year-old boy who is a thief in this story with a lot of experience. He is skilled in stealing, but is also learning to be a better person through his interactions with Anil. Hari lies about his name and background to gain Anil's trust, but struggles with his conscience as he steals from him. His journey reflects a transition, means a change from a life of crime to a desire for something more meaningful. Second, Anil. Anil, a kind and trusting young man about 25 years old who work who works as a writer in this story. He is portrayed as simple, generous, and somewhat careless, making him vulnerable to theft. Despite his financial struggles, he is willing to offer the narrator food, shelter, and opportunities to learn, including teaching him to read and write. Anil is the catalyst for the narrator's change of heart as he unknowingly becomes a source of inspiration for the narrator's future growth. So, these two, in brief, I have discussed. Now, let us stand with the passage. And before we proceed passage also, we should know what are the main themes. What are the main themes? So first one is trust and betrayal. Second is transformation and redemption. The third main theme could be the struggles of poverty and survival. Fourth is moral conflict, every humans we are having. Fifth is education and self improvement. And sixth is kindness and generosity. So these are the main themes of story, the thief's story. Let us start with the chapter and discuss. I was still a thief when I met Anil, and though only 15, I was an experienced and fairly successful hand. Anil was watching a wrestling match when I approached him. He was about 25, a tall, lean fellow, and he looked easygoing, kind, and simple enough for my purpose. I hadn't had much luck of late and thought I might be able to get in young man's confidence. You look a bit of a wrestler yourself, I said. A little flattery helps in making friends. Do you? He replied, which put me off for a moment because at that time I was rather thin. Well, I said modestly, I do wrestle a bit. Your name? Hari Singh. I lied. I took a new name every month. That kept me ahead of the police and my former employers. After this introduction, Anil talked about the well-oiled wrestlers who were grunting, lifting, and throwing each other about. I didn't have much to say. Anil walked away. I followed casually. Hello again, he said. I gave him my most appealing I want to work for you, I said, but I can't pay you. But I can't pay you. So, in this passage, the narrator is introducing about himself, who is the narrator Hari Singh, who used to change his name every month. Okay, a 15 years old thief talks about meeting a young man named Anil, who was kind and easygoing. The narrator hopes to gain Anil's trust to steal from him. He tries to flatter Anil by commenting on his wrestling skills, even though he himself feels thin and unathletic. This interaction sets up the story about their relationship, trust, and the narrator's intentions. So, anyhow, the stranger is communicating with Mr. Anil, the writer. Moving ahead, the second attempt that he did is that, okay, the narrator continues to interact with Anil. He modestly claims to be a wrestler, even though he was not a wrestler. When Anil asked for his name, the narrator lies and said that he was called by the name Hari Singh, explaining that he changes his name regularly to avoid getting caught by the police. That was Hari Singh had said about himself. So not to Mr. Anil, but to us. Okay, we readers, we know, okay, why he is changing the name, but not Mr. Anil. So Anil engages in a conversation about wrestlers, but the narrator struggles to continue much to the discussion. When Anil starts to walk away, the narrator follows him and expresses a desire to work for Anil, although Anil informs him that he cannot pay him. This sets up the dynamic between them, where the narrator hopes to take advantage of Mr. Anil's kindness. So this is all about here till this what we have read and discussed. I thought that over for a minute. Perhaps I had misjudged my man. I asked, "Can you feed me? Can you cook?" "I can cook," I lied again. "If you can cook, then maybe I can feed you." He took me to his room over the Jamuna sweet shop and told me I could sleep on the balcony, but the meal I cooked that night must have been terrible because he gave it to a stray dog and told me to be. But I in my most appealing way, and he couldn't help laughing. Later, said never mind. He'd teach to write my name and said he would soon teach me to sentences and to add numbers. I was grateful. I knew that once I could write like an educated man, there would be no limit to what I could achieve. I was quite pleasant working for Anil. I made the tea in the morning, then would take my time buying the day's supplies, u- usually making a profit about a rupee a day. I think he knew I made a little money this way, but he didn't seem to mind. So, here in this part of the story, the narrator realizes that he might have underestimated Anil's character. He asks Anil if he can be fed, to which Anil responds by asking if he can cook. The narrator lies again, claiming he can cook. Anil agrees to take him in and offers him a place to sleep on the balcony of his room above a sweet shop. However, when the narrator cooks dinner that night, it turns out poorly, and Anil gives it to a stray dog instead. Despite this, the narrator stays around, smiling and trying to charm Anil, when who ends up laughing at the situation. This shows the narrator's persistence and Anil's good nature. Uh, Moreover, Anil shows kindness to the narrator by patting him on the head and offering to teach him how to cook, write, and do mathematics. The narrator feels grateful for Anil's guidance, realizing that learning this skill could help him achieve more in life. So, as he works for Anil, the narrator enjoys his new life. He prepares tea in the morning and takes his time buying groceries, often making a small profit of about 1 rupee each day. 1 rupee each day when he was buying uh, edible or supplies, we can say, buying the day's supply is from the market or grocery shop, we can say. Okay, he was getting always profit of 1 rupee each day. So that was a great value of that time. And if we compare at present, what is 1 rupee? You can imagine, isn't it? Okay, but money is money. Okay, although Anil seems aware that the narrator is making a bit of extra money, he doesn't mind, highlighting Anil's easygoing and trusting nature. This creates a more positive relationship between them. So, till here, I hope you have enjoyed about both the characters, Hari Singh and Mr. Anil. Why I am repeating most of the time the character's name so that you will remember who is acting, what he is doing in this story. So here you can see he is Mr. Anil, and this is 15 years old boy, Mr. Hari Singh, who changes name every month for not being caught by other employers. Moving ahead with the reading section, Anil made money by fits and starts. He would borrow 1 week, lend the next. He kept worrying about his next check, but as soon as it arrived, he would go out and celebrate. It seems he wrote for magazines, a queer way to make a living. One evening, he came home with a small bundle of notes saying he had just sold a book to a publisher. At night, I saw him tuck the money under the mattress. I had been working for Anil for almost a month and apart from cheating on the shopping, had not done anything in my line of work. I had every opportunity for doing so. Anil had given me a key to the door and I could come and go as I pleased. He was the most trusting person I had ever met, and that is why it was so difficult to rob him. It's easy to rob a greedy man because he can afford to, but it's difficult to rob a helpless man. Sometimes he doesn't even notice he's been robbed, and that takes all the pleasure out of the work. Well, it's time I did some work. I told myself I'm off practice, and if I don't take the money, he'll only waste it on his friends. After all, he doesn't pay me. So, here in this section, in this of the story, the narrator describes Anil's financial habits. Anil makes money periodically, sometimes borrowing and sometimes lending. He often worries about his next paycheck, but when he does receive it, he likes to celebrate, which the narrator finds unusual since Anil writes for magazines. One evening, when Anil comes home with a bundle of cash that he has sold a book to a publisher, that night the narrator sees him hide the money under his mattress. Having worked for Anil for month, the narrator acknowledges that he hasn't stolen anything yet, despite having many chances. Anil even trusts him enough to give him a key to the door, him to come and go freely whenever. So, till there, it highlights a trusting nature to Mr. Hari Singh, which makes the narrator feel both grateful and conflicted about his intentions. Then, moving ahead with his reflections, the narrator is on his way challenging to steal for Anil. He explains that it's easier to rob someone greedy because they expect to be robbed and can afford it. In contrast, a careless person like Mr. Anil, a writer, might not even notice if something is missing, which makes the theft less satisfying for the narrator. So, feeling the urge to steal again, Mr. Hari Singh, the narrator, decides that it's time to take some action since he hasn't in a while. That means for many days he had any type of stealing practice. So rationalizes that if he doesn't take the money, Anil will just spend it on his friends and that Mr. Anil doesn't even pay him for his work. So, this thought process reveals the narrator's internal conflict and justifies his intention to steal from Anil their good friendship and trust. So, few questions here that now it is very important to yourself orally and it might come as a evaluating questions in the examination too. So don't avoid or ignore these type of questions from the textbook. How does the thief think Anil will react to the theft? What does he say about this of the people when they are robbed? Does Anil that he has been robbed? So these ans- actions answer we'll get after the explanation and so what I had discussed the above questions you should get the answer now. Who is I in this? You can easily say it is Mr. Hari Singh, the thief or the narrator itself. Okay. So moving ahead with the Anil was asleep. Beam of moonlight stepped over the balcony and fell on the bed. I sat up on the floor, considering the situation. If I took the money, I could catch 30 express to Lucknow. Train route also, okay? Express to Lucknow. 10:30 at night. Sleep out of the blanket, I crept up to the Anil was sleeping peacefully. His face was clear and unlined. Even I had more marks on my face, though mine were mostly scars. My hand slid searching for the notes, means money. When I found them, I drew them out without a Anil sighed in his sleep and turned on his towards me. I was startled and quick crawled out of the room. When I was on the road, I began to run. I had the notes at my waist there by the string of my pajamas. I slowed down to a walk and counted the notes. 600 rupees in 50s. I could live like an oich Arab for a week or two. Remember what was the amount that he had stolen from Mr. Anil 600 rupees, and that was also not in hundreds, in 50s. Five, okay, this one 50 rupees notes each, and total was 600. So here in this passage, the narrator describes the moment he decides to steal from Anil. It's it was, that means, night time, and Anil is peacefully asleep, illuminated by moonlight. The reflection of the moonlight is here, and the narrator sits on the floor, contemplating his plan. He thinks that if he takes the money, he can escape on the 10:30 express train to Lucknow. As he quietly approaches the bed, he feels a mix of tension and determination. He reaches under the mattress and finds the bundle of money. Just as he pulls it out, Anil sighs and turns over, which startles the narrator, making him quickly crawl out of the room. Once outside, he begins to run, feeling the stolen money tucked into his waistband. After slowing down, he counts the notes and discovers he had 60, not 600 rupees in 50 rupee notes. The narrator fantasizes about how to live a lavish lifestyle, okay, or we can say lavishly for a week or two, imagining the possibilities the money offers. So this moment highlights his excitement and the thrill of stealing, and he had successfully brought up his stealing habit, even as it contrasts with the relationship he had built with Anil. Okay, the relationship of trust. Okay, so as I have highlighted the mainstream in the beginning, you can pause the video and you can recall the main themes. So here you can understand the conflict also, and what are the themes that we have to understand from this story. So this is Mr. Hari Singh, 15 years old boy who is crippling and stealing the money, and narrator is sound sleep in the moonlight. So moving ahead with the reading section, when I reached the station, I did not stop at the ticket office. I had never bought a ticket in my life, but dashed straight to the platform. The Lucknow Express, the train name is Lucknow Express, was just moving out. That means moving out at 10:30. The train had still to pick up speed, and I should have been able to jump into one of the carriages, bogies that means, but I hesitated for some reason I can't explain, and I lost the chance to get away. When the train had gone, I found myself standing alone on the deserted platform. I had no idea where to spend the night. I had no friends, believing that friends were more trouble than help, and I did not want to make anyone curious by staying at one of the small hotels near the station. The only person I knew really well was the man I had robbed. Leaving the station, I walked slowly through the bazaar. Through the bazaar. So, till here, let us understand first of all, in this passage, the narrator arrives at the station but doesn't stop to buy a ticket, as he has never purchased in his lifetime for the ticket. He rushes to the platform just as the Lucknow Express was about to leave. Although he should be able to jump on the train, he hesitates for an unexplained reason and misses his chance to escape. After the train leaves, he finds himself alone on the empty platform, feeling lost and unsure of where to spend the night. He realizes he has no friends to turn to, as he believes that friendships are more troublesome than they are worthy. He also doesn't want to attract attention by staying at a nearby hotel. The only person he knows well was Mr. Anil, the man he just robbed. This reflects the narrator's isolation and inner conflict after his theft, highlighting the consequences of his action. In my short career as a thief, dear students, this is not career, okay? Many of us we are saying career, okay? But it is career. Remember, career, okay? The difference of pronunciation also a little bit you should find out, okay, whether this is carrier or career. So it is career. So in my short career as a thief, I had made a study of men's faces when they had lost their goods. The greedy man showed, the rich man showed anger, the poor man showed acceptance. But I knew that Anil's face when he discovered the theft show only a touch of sadness, not for the loss of money, but for the loss of trust. I found myself in the Maidan, okay, and sat bench. The night was chilly. It was early November, and a light drizzle added to my discomfort. Soon it was raining quite heavily. My shirt and pajamas stuck to my skin, and a cold wind blew the rain across my face. So, here in this section, the narrator reflects his experiences as a thief and how different types of people react when they lost their possessions. He notes that greedy people feel fear, wealthy individuals display anger, and poor people tend to accept their losses. However, he believes that when Anil discovers he has been robbed, he will only feel sadness, not for the money itself, but for the betrayal of trust. After this realization, the narrator finds himself in a park, that is Maidan, okay, and sits on a bench. The chilly November, it was the month of November, night is made worse by a light drizzle, which soon turns into heavy rain. As he sits there, his clothes become wet and clinch to his skin, that means drenched, and the cold wind adds to his discomfort. This moment emphasizes the narrator's isolation and regret as he contemplates his actions, contrasting the warmth and trust he had experienced with Anil the writer. I went back to the bazaar and sat down in the shelter of the clock tower. Where he is sitting? Shelter of the clock tower. The clock showed midnight. I felt for the notes, means money. They were damp from the rain. Anil's money. In the morning he would probably having in the morning he would probably have given me 2 or 3 rupees to go to the cinema, but now I had it all. I couldn't cook his meals, run to the bazaar for or learn to write whole sentences anymore. I had forgotten about them in the excitement of the theft. Whole sentences I knew could one day bring me more than a few hundred rupees. It was a simple matter to steal, and sometimes just as simple to be caught. But to be a really big man, a clever and respected man, was something else. I should go back to Anil, I told myself, if only to learn to read and write. I hurried back to the room. So let us understand till here first of all. In this passage, the narrator finds shelter under a clock tower in the bazaar. As it rains heavily, he checks the stolen money, which was now damp. He reflects on how he has Anil's money, realizing that in the morning Anil would have likely given him a couple of rupees to go to the cinema, but now he has taken everything. The narrator feels a sense of loss, knowing he can no longer cook for Anil, do shopping, or learn to write whole sentences. He remembers that being able to write could lead to greater opportunities in life and earning in the future. He recognizes that while stealing is easy, achieving respect and becoming a significant person in society is much harder. So, the moment of reflection leads him to consider returning to Anil not only to give back the money but also to continue learning from him. It shows the narrator's growing awareness of the value of education and the trust he has broken. Moving ahead with the reading section, I hurried back to the room feeling very nervous, for it is much easier to steal something than to return it undetected. I opened the door quietly, then stood in the doorway in clouded moonlight. Anil was still asleep. I crept to the head of the bed and my hand came up with the notes. I felt his breath on my hand. I remained still for a minute. Then my hand found the edge of the mattress and slipped under it with the notes. I awoke late next morning to find that Anil had already made the tea. He stretched out his hand towards me. There was a 50 rupee note between his fingers. My heart sank. I thought I had been discovered. I made some money yesterday, he explained. Now You will be paid regularly. My spirits rose, but when I took the note, I saw it was still wet from the night's rain. Today we'll start writing sentence, he said. He knew, but neither his lips nor his eyes showed anything. I smiled at Anil in my most appealing way, and the smile came by itself without any effort. So, here finally in this passage, the narrator feels anxious as he hurries back to Anil's room to return the stolen money. He understands that it's easier to steal than to give back something without being noticed. Quietly, he opens the door and sees that Anil is still asleep. He carefully approaches the bed and slips the damp notes back under the mattress. The next morning, when the narrator awakes to find that Anil has already made tea, Anil extends his hand to him, revealing a 50 rupee note, which makes the narrator's heart sink as he fears he's been caught. However, Anil explains that he made some money the previous day and will now pay him regularly. The narrator feels relieved but notices that the note is still wet from the rain, suggesting he knows about the theft. Anil then says they will start writing sentences that day, despite suspecting that Anil is aware of what had happened. Anil's claim demeanor shows no anger or accusation. The narrator smiles as naturally as usual, indicating a deep sense of gratitude and a renewed bond of trust between them. This moment reflects the narrator's internal conflict and his growing respect for Anil. So, finally, what is the outcome or what is the moral that we learn from this story, thief story, is that the moral of the story is true wealth comes from trust. What? True wealth comes from trust, kindness, and education rather than material possessions. So, this is all about the thief's story written by Ruskin Bond. So, I hope you have enjoyed the story, and if you have enjoyed, then please share it, make others also enjoy as you had enjoyed. Thank you. We'll meet with the next chapter, next video. Till then, have interest for self reading and enjoy yourself. Thank you.